Hello, beautiful souls. Today's teaching is coming from a place of deep, deep, deep ache. The kind of ache that lives in our hearts after we have given it everything. And this discourse is inspired by something many of us have lived through over and over and over again in different ways. That moment when our beloved divine masculine disrespects us publicly, casually, repeatedly, and we ask ourselves this question: why would someone who have felt my soul treat me like this? So today we are diving all the way in. This is why your divine masculine disrespects you. So not sugar-coated, not romanticized, just the truth. So, disrespect is not the opposite of love. It's a reaction to unmet fear. So I want you guys to get that really clear. Excuse me. So let's get something straight first, all right? Disrespect in the twin flame journey doesn't always come from hatred. It comes from fear, from control, from collapse, and yes, sometimes from deep unworthiness. But that doesn't make it okay. It doesn't mean it's our job to accept it, fix it, or tolerate it. So when our divine masculine disrespects us, talks over us in front of friends, ignores our messages, makes us feel invisible, or says things that stink in front of others, or humiliates us, it's not our light that our divine masculine is rejecting. It's his inability to feel safe enough to stand beside that light that we carry. And you might ask this question: why does it hurt so much? Why do these incidents hurt so much? Be it on the train, be it on the aeroplane, be it on a bus, be it in a shopping mall, be it in a concert, be it anywhere. Why must our divine masculine hurt us or disrespect us or push us away or humiliate us or anything? But more than the place or the time or the event or incident, it's our reaction to it. So it starts like this, right? It starts like this. We remember the incident. Maybe it's a train, maybe a table, maybe a message that went unread. A moment where you felt exposed, small, or dismissed in front of others. It hurts more not because our divine masculine is a stranger, but because he's the soul that knows you best. It's betrayal by the one you thought saw you, and that pain lives in our heart, body, like this. If even he can hold me, if even he can't hold me, am I holdable at all? So let me tell you something. Everything that we are feeling, it's valid, but that's not the truth. What happens on that train, in the mall, in a public place, in the confines of your apartment, or in whatever moment you're remembering, was never about our worth. It was about our divine masculine's inability to meet our visibility. Men who feel like they're less than will often lash out, withdraw, mock, or ignore what they actually admire. Why? Because to praise, it would require them to rise up and meet it, and they don't feel capable yet. So, the disrespect is all often a defense against reverence. So here's the paradox. Sometimes our divine masculine doesn't disrespect us because he doesn't care. He disrespects us because he cares so much and it terrifies him. Our feel triggers his soul memory. Our presence reminds him of everything he has to become. And instead of bowing, he collapses. Instead of worshipping, he withdraws. Instead of admitting, he feels small. He says something that can make us feel even smaller. It's so reversal. And in that moment, we become the scapegoat for his shame. So that brings us to our pain as divine feminines. Why are we the ones bleeding for his fear? So let's talk about us now. Because the worst part isn't just what our divine masculine did. It's what we did to our feel. We start to replay it. We start to shrink. We stop speaking up. We ask less, show less, expect less. We tell ourselves, we must have provoked it. It's our fault. I shouldn't have been there. I shouldn't have said this. I shouldn't have messaged him. I shouldn't have bumped into him. I shouldn't have done anything. And you say, maybe you were too much, too intense, too available. And that is how, as divine feminine, we unconsciously start rewriting our sacred fire as a threat. But here's the truth. We didn't get disrespected because we were too much. We were disrespected because our divine masculine couldn't meet his own standard. And that is not our fault. So what to do now, right? What is the power of like walking away from the shame loop? So what do we do with this pain? I wouldn't recommend suppressing it at all, Neither don't wait for your divine masculine to apologize or don't try to be more palatable. We speak it. We turn the ache into something more. We name the moment. We tell the feel that was not okay and I will not carry it in silence anymore because our healing does not depend on its recognition. It depends on our reclamation. We walk back into the part of ourselves that knows, even if he couldn't see me, I'm still whole. I'm still sacred. I'm still the one his soul chose. So, if you have been disrespected by your divine masculine, you're not alone. And most importantly, you're not wrong. This is your moment to reclaim the parts of you that were shamed, ignored, or silenced in his presence. To feel the grief, but not to become it. To remember our divine masculine may have collapsed, but we don't have to. And when he is ready, he will return to the place where he left us, not physically, but energetically. And when he does, he will come back to find a woman no longer waiting, but rising. So, I really want to, go back, go deep. I want to go deep, deep, deep. Because this is something that most divine feminines we are never prepared for. Not just the heartbreak, but the disrespect. But what happens after? What happens when he comes back? When he reappears quietly, awkwardly, or lovingly? After walking out on our light, after ignoring our messages, after mocking or humiliating in public or embarrassing us in private, after acting like he never cared or totally using words like not interested or I don't like you or I really like you but I don't love you. Contradictions. Divine masculines are contradictions. Right? So today, I want to take it deeper. I want to teach you guys exactly how to respond when our divine masculine returns after disrespecting us energetically, emotionally, and practically. So, what do we do before we respond? Check the energy, not the words. I say this all the time in my private sessions. It's always in the energies, not in the words. So, when our divine masculine comes back, our first instinct may be to listen to the tone. Is he softer? Is he kind? Or is he acting like nothing happened? But here's what matters most: check the energy, not the words. Did our divine masculine collapse again the moment we make eye contact? Does he feel remorse or entitlement? Is he meeting us at our level or still trying to pull us back to his? Because if he returns just to reset the control or smooth over the discomfort, that is not reconciliation. That's not reconciliation at all. That's regulation. His, not ours. And our sacred body will know the difference. So this is not about punishment, it's about alignment. Right? So let's be clear, we are not being asked to punish our divine masculine, absolutely not. But we are being asked to honor our field. When someone disrespects our soul, they break an energetic contract. So when they return, they must first show, I'm willing to take accountability. I'm willing to meet your integrity now. And when our divine masculine returns and pretends like nothing happened, that's avoidance. If he blames us for making it awkward, that's rejection. And oh my goodness, the amount of times our divine masculines love to use the word awkward. Awkward. Oh my goodness. If he says, let's just start fresh without addressing the rupture, that's spiritual bypassing. And we don't rise by accommodating that anymore. So the most sacred response that I would ever suggest is stillness. So the most powerful thing we can do when our divine masculine returns after disrespecting us is this: we stay still. We don't rush to prove that we have forgiven him. We don't rush to show that we are still available. We don't rush to patch the hole in the field. Let our divine masculine sit in the silence that we once sat in. Let him feel the stillness when the stillness when and where our overgiving used to live. Let him experience the space you once used to perform your worthiness. Because if he feels remorse, he won't need noise. He will meet you in the quiet. So remember, boundaries are not walls. They are invitations to rise. So here's what, as divine feminines, we get afraid of, we get scared of. If I set a boundary, will he leave again? But here's the truth. If our boundary makes him leave, he wasn't ready for love, only comfort. If our stillness makes him unsafe, he was never safe with truth, only control. So when he returns, give him an opportunity to rise, not through begging, but through alignment. We don't need to lecture, we don't need to shout, we don't need to scream, we don't need to advise. We don't even need to explain all the pain all over again. Sometimes the most powerful response is just, I'm still here, but I'm no longer the same woman you left. So when you do choose to speak from wholeness. That is the biggest giveaway. And if the time does come where we speak from wholeness, not wounding, not how could you do this to me, but this is a standard I hold for how I'm loved. Not you broke me, but I rebuilt myself and I'm protecting what I've become. Let your voice be sacred, not reactive, not proving, not pleasing, just true, just with integrity, just authenticity. And our divine masculine will feel the change in our field before the words even reach him. And it will either activate his rise or reveal his continued collapse. Either way, we stay in union with ourselves. So that's why we are no longer the version of ourselves who needs our divine masculine to come back the right way. We are the version who can now discern the difference between returning and replaying. We don't need to shut our heart to protect it. We don't need to hate our divine masculine to feel powerful. We just need to stay true to the sacredness. that we've been building all along, So our divine masculine can return and we can respond. But we also decide the terms of our entry now. We are not angry. We are not angry, we are anchored. So that's the reason why, I wanted to bring you guys even deeper. So, the first two parts, build the foundation of this discourse. So now we are going to go deeper into when he doesn't acknowledge the hurt he caused and what that could really mean. So, in this part, this may be the hardest to live through, but the most important to understand. Because sometimes, even after everything our divine masculine has done, the silence, the dismissal, the humiliation, he returns but never acknowledges any of it. And it leaves you asking, did he even notice the damage he caused? Does he feel nothing? So let's break down this. Let's break this down, all right? This is what it really means when our divine masculine doesn't acknowledge the pain he put us through and how to handle it without losing ourselves again. So the absence of acknowledgement is not the absence of awareness. So first, let's correct the biggest lie our nervous system might be telling us. If he didn't acknowledge, he didn't feel it. That is false. That's one of the biggest falsehoods out there. Divine masculines are often painfully aware of what they have done, but they are too ashamed, too collapsed, or too afraid to say it out loud. Why? Because to acknowledge our pain would mean admitting they failed to protect our heart, owning the fact that our field saw everything and losing the illusion that they were in control. So instead of bowing to the truth, they hide in denial. Because for our beloved divine masculines, denial feels safer than devotion. So healing does not require his confession. So, you might think, if only he would admit what he did, then I'll feel validated, then I could finally move forward. Mm-mm. But if your healing depends on his confession, then he still holds power. We don't need his apology to reclaim our sacred ground. We don't need. What we need is our own recognition of what happened. He may never say or never admit, I hurt you. But our body remembers, our field remembers, and we can honor that memory even if he won't. This is what the healed divine feminine does. Because denial is a defense mechanism, not a statement of truth. Here's what's happening on his side of the field. When he pretends it didn't happen, when he says, hey, how are you? Like nothing's broken. When he when he just unblocks or connects with you through another social media avenue, or just comes back to your home again, or uses, mutual friends or mutual connections to come back into your field, into your life again. When he skips the grief and jumps into casual conversation, that is not peace. That is disassociation. Our divine masculine is spiritually bypassing the very thing that could help him to evolve. But this isn't about punishment, it's about discernment. If he can't meet the moment, he's not ready to meet us. So that's how we got to look at it, right? Why does it hurt more when he acts normal? So there's a special kind of pain in watching the person who shattered you, right? Smile, laugh, post stories, or act like they're fine. It feels like betrayal all over again. But listen to this carefully. His performance of normal is his survival strategy, not his soul state. He's not fine. He's fragmented. Our divine masculine is fragmented. Us, on the other hand, we feel everything. We've alchemized it, we have burned in it, we've burned in it. And that's why we are evolving. So when he skips the apology, see it for what it is, an emotional absence of capacity, not love, emotional absence of capacity, not love. So what to do when there's no acknowledgement? So what to do? We don't beg for recognition. We don't drop hints. We don't reduce ourselves to get him to see us. Instead, we say energetically, I see what happened. I name it in my own body. I validate myself where he could not, and I still choose to rise. Because one day, and it may take months, it might take years, the weight of what he didn't say will hit him like a thunder. Not because we chased him, not because we stopped. That's when the divine masculine begins to awaken in the echo of the truth he never had the courage to face. The true power of the divine feminine is not just in how we love, but in how we remember. Even when the world gaslights us, even when our divine masculine bypasses us, even when the apology never comes, we still know what happened. We still hold the memory to sacred wholeness. That's why we aren't broken. We are not dramatic. We are the field keeper of truth. Right? So, I want to bring you guys to the next part. The day our divine masculine will realize what he did. And when will that happen? What will happen then, right? So this part is one so many of you have secretly waited for, hoping that even in this discourse I'll touch on this. So here it is. The day he finally realizes what he did to us, what he said, what he ignored, what he broke in our heart, it's the scene your soul replays in dreams. What you imagine when you think maybe one day he will understand, maybe one day he'll say sorry. But when that day finally comes, I can tell you one thing. It doesn't always look like a movie. Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it's delayed, sometimes it hurts even more. But the truth is, from my own experience, it wouldn't really matter, the apology, because of the vibrational state of bliss we will be in, you see. So that's why I want to touch on this question. We're going to go deep into this question. What happens when our divine masculine finally realizes the pain he has caused us, and why our response on that day matters more than any other? So remember, realization doesn't always arrive with words. So let's clear a misconception. If he realizes what he did, he will come back and say it. Not always. So for many divine masculines, the realization first hits internally, in the middle of a karmic moment, a middle of, being sacked from work, or being embarrassed by his best friend or group of friends, or by people he truly believed, business partners, karmic partners, whatever. During a breakdown, or during a void, or during a change in lifestyle. He may be living in the heart of the city, and then suddenly, he might go hit rock bottom. You see, like I always say, when divine masculines disrespect their divine feminines, no hath fury like a woman scorned, right? So really, it really affects. It really affects all aspects. So that's why, even if it's done subconsciously, our divine masculines do get affected, irregardless of Saturn retrograde. They do get a hit, especially. You see, divine feminines, we are energy, right? We are Shakti. We are the field of abundance. And when our divine masculine disrespects us, disrespects the combined energy field, the third energy, it hits him hard. He may lose his job, he may lose his connections, he might lose a lot of, luxuries, stuff like that in his life. And even though as divine feminines we may not wish that, like no had fury like a women's scorn, right? Like we might not wish that, but it just happens as part of the lessons our divine masculine needs to learn. That's why I said during a breakdown, or when our divine masculine meets someone new and realizes what they had lost in us. So it's actually very confronting. He might not even have the words yet, but inside his soul, something finally cracks. And for the first time, that's when he sees us. He sees what he held, he sees what he broke. And that realization is not romantic. It's actually soul shattering. That's what I want to talk about, this shame spiral. The shame spiral begins here. when the ego panics. So once he realizes, once our divine masculine realizes what he did, the shame spiral begins. And here's what you need to know, that shame doesn't always turn into an apology. Sometimes it turns into avoidance, sometimes it turns into anger, sometimes it turns into overcompensation with someone else. Why? Because the ego panics. It goes, if I admit what I did, no, in his head he's thinking, if he admits what he did, he will lose us forever. If he faces this, he will drown in it. If he feels it, he won't survive it. So instead of coming clean, our divine masculine spiral first, collapse again, ghost again, block again, and will feel like a second betrayal. But it's not betrayal, it is activation. And this is what happens right before our divine masculine start to change. So this is the most dangerous moment, as I would call it, when our divine masculine wants to come back but doesn't feel worthy. So this is also the most vulnerable period as well. So here's the part no one really talks about, the day when our divine masculine realizes that what he did is also the day he may become convinced that we deserve better as divine feminines. And he may start watching us from a distance. He might try to reconnect awkwardly. He might fall silent again because he doesn't feel like he deserves us anymore. This is not to excuse him, but it explains why he might never speak the words we waited to hear. He's not afraid of losing us now, he's afraid of being seen by us in his most shameful state. Because when our divine masculine realizes how much he hurt us, you know, the women who never hurt him, it destroys his illusion of being the good guy. And that is the beginning of true soul growth. So, what do we do in that moment shapes everything. So now we turn towards ourselves, right? Because whether our divine masculine expresses it or not, we will feel the shift in the field. We will sense the remorse. We will feel the longing. We will notice the energy change. And in that moment, we might be tempted to rescue him from the pain. Don't let him walk through the fire you already walked. We don't need to punish him, but we don't need to protect him either. Let him come to us, not just with love, but with accountability. Here's the key thing, accountability. Because we are not the same person anymore. And our divine masculine needs to meet us where we are at present, not where he left us. So if he does speak, here's what to listen for. If he does speak, if he does apologize, if he does try to reconnect, listen for ownership, not pity. Watch for humility, not humiliation. Watch for humility, not guilt tripping. Feel for alignment, not just tears. Because the man who is truly ready to rise after disrespecting us will not need to explain it at all. We will feel it in our divine masculine's energy, his voice, his body language. We don't need to chase an apology. We will receive a field of reverence, and that is what real union begins with. Not romance, but repair. So, we have waited, we have cried, we have processed in silence, we have alchemized the ache that our divine masculine created. So when the day comes that he finally sees it, we don't need to perform softness. We don't need to collapse back into old roles. We are now the mirror of our divine masculine's awakening. And what he does with the mirror is his soul's test, because the real story isn't about him returning. It's about how he returns. It's who we are when he does. So let us speak. Let us be. Because that's what shifts the entire narrative. So, in this final part, I know how much it could have cracked your hearts open, for many, many of you listening, because we talked about why our divine masculine disrespected us, what to do when he returns, why he can't acknowledge the hurt, and what happens the moment he finally realizes what he did. So now we are going to ask a deeper question, not about what he did or what he will say, but whether he will ever see our pain, feel it the way we feel it, understand the weight we carry, witness what it cost us, and most importantly, will he ever see the way our soul remembers being seen before the wound? So let's go there. Let this be the final part, hey? So remember this, guys. Men don't always feel the pain they caused in the same dimension. Let's be very honest. Let's get really honest here. Men, especially our beloved divine masculines, in the collapsed phase often feel things delayed. Keyword here, delayed. Not because they are heartless, but because they are disassociated. So when we are bleeding, our divine masculine is buffering. When we are grieving, he's avoiding. When we are collapsing, he's compartmentalizing. It's not fair, but that's what trauma does. So, no, he may never feel our pain the exact level and timing as we did, but one day, in his own quiet hour, the pain will reach him. So, the pain doesn't disappear, it transfers through time, because pain is not erased just because it's unacknowledged. In fact, our unvalidated pain becomes an echo in the field, a distortion in the bond, a vibration in our divine masculine's timeline. So when he finally steps into a moment that mirrors what he did to us, whether through someone else or through his own awakening, he will feel it. That's how karmic balancing works in situations like this, not out of punishment, but out of universal correction. So, because what is not integrated in love will always come back through loss. So, when you truly, what you see as divine feminines, what we truly want is not for our divine masculine to suffer, but to actually see us, right? So let's be brutally honest here. The ache we carry isn't because we want our divine masculine to suffer, it's because we want our divine masculine to finally see what he never stayed long enough to witness. The day our light dimmed after he left, the weeks we couldn't eat, the shame that made you feel unlovable, the PTSD he may have caused, the nights we kept blaming ourselves. We want our divine masculine to know what we carried for the both, yourself and your DM, right? How we transmuted it, how we rebuild it in silence. And yes, we want him to see us now, not the girl he collapsed on, but the women who kept rising. And that is not ego, that is the soul asking to be witnessed in truth. How he sees you now, even if he can't say it, that's a huge thing. Even if our divine masculine hasn't said it, even if he hasn't noticed the change, even if he's with someone else or he's distracted by a cause, or his little men's club, or his NPC friends, he will compare every moment of peace to what he once had with you. Even if he looks fine, his soul has began remembering what you held. And there is no timeline in which our divine masculine doesn't eventually come face to face with our strength. Not just our beauty, not just our warmth, but the sacred ache we carried and how it shaped us into the divine feminine we are. So when he does see it, you won't need to be seen anymore. And here's the paradox. The day he really sees the pain we have lived through, we won't need him anymore because by then we have done the work, We have walked through the valley of silence. We have anchored our light so deeply that his recognition will feel like confirmation, not salvation. And we will receive it not as proof of our worth, but as a gift to our soul. And this is where we will say, I know you will see it one day, but I'm already whole now. That's when true energetic reunion begins. Not in words, but in mutual awareness. So if you have made it through all parts of this discourse, I want you to I want you to hear this in your bones. You did not imagine the disrespect. You did not overreact. You were not too much. You were just scared, and you still may be. And whether our divine masculine acknowledges it now, later, or never, our soul already knows the truth. He may have looked away, but we have never stopped seeing ourselves, and that is the beginning of everything. All right, so this is a deep discourse, and again, it's going to make you think about a couple of things deeply. It might make you think about everything that you're feeling, everything that you're going through. But remember this one thing, you know everything happens in divine timing. That is how it is. And sometimes you may feel like, hey, I've done this, I've done that. But the reality is this: you may feel like you've done everything and still like you have not done anything. But in actuality, you're moving through the sacred stream of life itself. So that's the reason why, it's so important as divine feminines to pull ourselves together and to stay strong. And if you need more help in your journey, you can book my first time Twin Flame Psychic Guidance session below in the description for clarity on your journey, on everything. And I've introduced a couple of new healings as well, and I still have spots for the 1010 Galactic Portal healing. So it's done over video call, live. So if you book earlier, you can get the timing of your choice. With that, I'll see you all again with another discourse. This discourse is long, and really sometimes when you really look back, there's a thin line between everything, love, disrespect, hurt. Sometimes divine masculines may even say that it was their way of pushing us away, because that was the only way we would go away, and that was part of him setting us free. But the reality is, as twin flames, we are bound by history. We are born in the same cosmic egg, right? So it is what it is. All right, with that, I'll see you all again. Take care. And if you feel disrespected by your divine masculine, just remember this: there could be a million reasons why he behaved the way he behaved that particular day. Sometimes you could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time in the wrong day, to have incurred his wrath. Or you may have been in the wrong situation. He might have been in a situation where he had just undergone a loss, or a bad situation with his boss, or he might have just been fired, or he might have just had a bad day. So sometimes we got to go really deep to figure things out, not only through the mind but through the soul. With that, if you guys need more help on your journey, you can always book a private session with me, and I'll see you all again. Take care. Love you all.